Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
The first 2 weeks at Road America gave us a glimpse of the pecking order. But unlike previous series, the drivers must now hop into a different car and try to perform just as well. Will this new twist shake things up? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Sport Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Avenant is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by VIR. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been a family-owned and operated business for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at forporsche.com or follow at Porsche Exchange on Instagram. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. Well, we've come to not just a new car, but a new track, of course. We're here at VIR, which should suit these GT4s quite well, DJ.
Yeah, it certainly should, Joe. I was actually just thinking about here during the pre-race how perfect of a combination these cars are. There's just enough downforce to make the run coming from the Snake up through the Rising S's into South Bend a little bit interesting and able to be a little bit dangerous with it, that they're going to be able to go relatively flat out through that. And they're also not going to have to deal with as much aero wash would they be if they were racing the Porsche Cup or the GT3 cars around here. Important things to know about the track itself. Well, you're really only looking at 2 primary overtaking zones. That's going to be down into Horseshoe and then down into Roller Coaster off of the backstretch. But really and truly, if you want to try to get a pass into Roller Coaster, they are going to be very, very tricky to get that right, because once you get into the corner, that's pretty much a one-way street. You've got to make the draft pass coming out of Oak Tree, may it rest in peace, all the way down that back straightaway, and that's where it really goes. But altogether, Joe, this is one of the best tracks to drive. If you get the rhythm right around here, it is an absolute dream.
And what's going to be interesting is this is a track that has been recently updated on iRacing. So this is going to be the first time that PCA brings these drivers to this newly updated circuit. It's a little bit wider. Some of the curves are different. Some of the markers are definitely different around the track as well. As you mentioned, the Oak Tree, unfortunately, no longer there. So we'll see how they adapt to that. Jordan Daniels sitting in 4th position, taking us up through those climbing S's and into South Bend. You can see just how blind it is over it as he drops back down and then into the newly bare Oak Tree corner now in that 069, showing him not exactly going to light the world of fire on this lap if I'm reading his sectors right. So not sure if he's going to jump ahead of this 4th place.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any green sectors there as well, but really, really good line coming through Oak Tree. You know, that's a pretty deceptive corner. It's a double apex right-hander that you've got to carry a lot of speed in and then start to apply the brake a little bit as you unwind the steering. It's very easy to lock up, and I've got a sneaking suspicion that despite the ABS on these GT4s, we may see a driver or 2 off into the grass before this night is over.
A number of changes up at the front. Elsom goes up to P5. Boyer to 2nd place on the grid on the front row. And Daniels has actually been slid down to 8th place. So a number of drivers have found time on this last lap. Jordan actually does go a little bit quicker, it looks like. Nope, he's just crossing the line now, excuse me. And he does not go faster that lap, unfortunately. So who else is on a flyer here? Daniel Nix has a provisional pole, and by 2/10 over Charlie Boyer. His last lap was his quickest in that number 23 machine, a 53.4. And I'm not showing him as doing all that much better, so let's keep an eye and see how he fares on these last few turns. Oh, well, he's not going to get to him because he goes off track before he even reaches Madison Avenue.
Yeah, just going to miss it there a little bit. And Joe, crucially, looking up at that 0.2 of a second, that difference between first and second, that is our largest gap in the entire field. Everybody else is within mere fractions of a second up to the driver in front of them. I think this is really going to present a pretty fantastic race with some very, very matched drivers.
Yeah, top 14 right now are all within 1 second. So it is pretty darn close out there. And Eli Peacock down in 19th comes around through the horseshoe. He's got one more lap, but he doesn't have the time, unfortunately, to complete it. Looks like our grid is essentially set at this point. So as the clock ticks down to 0, I suppose it's time that we head through that starting order since they won't be able to complete their flying laps. Looks like Daniel Nix is on the pole today with Charlie Boyer starting in 2nd, and Curtis Crummell will be in P3. John Gibson will be P4, followed by David Palmer in 5th and Andrew Elsom in 6th. After that, it is David Boyer starting P7, Jordan Daniels in 8th, Michael Adams 9th, and Jason Finch rounds out your top 10.
Looking down through the top 20, it's going to be Lee Binkley, then Ken Eskridge, Theodosis Neokley, followed by Charlie Ferrer, then Andy Green, Matthew Scott, Will Kelly, Kevin Yokel, Mark Frost, and Eli Peacock will round out your top 20.
And there you see the remainder of the field as they continue to grid up. The other thing that's different this time, as they did last series, is it's going to be a standing start. Whereas in previous series, they would all have it as a standing start or all as a rolling start. They're swapping back and forth in these past couple series, and certainly keeps drivers on their toes. So just waiting for, it looks like, Charlie Ferrer to get out there. He's one of the newcomers to this class. And Krutzler looks like he's out there, trying to see who we're missing. Mazzola, it seems, back in 33rd position, is the last open spot, which is filled in. Ferrer's waiting a long time. He only has so much left here, about 30 more seconds before they're going to take off without him, and they're not allowed to start from pit lane without permission. There he goes. Now he's out there. So the engines will start to rev here for race number 2 as the cars get ready, and the green flag is out. Charlie Boyer looks pretty strong off the line compared to Nix, and he's gaining as they approach down into the horseshoe, but he's going to be on the outside of this double apexer. That's going to be hard to try and complete that pass as they all swing into there, and somebody a little bit farther back, it's spun around. Can't quite make out who it is, but it's causing an absolute pileup.
I think it's David Boyer. He's at least one that's falling down through the field. I also see Nick Whitehill and Rob Neville being marked as off track. Theodosis Neokley and Curtis Crummell may have been involved in a little bit of the aftermath as well there, Joe.
Yeah, unfortunately, kind of a secondary incident there. So that was a bit of a messy one here for the GT4s as they're already hitting the snake now and heading under the bridge. Nick's still ahead of Charlie Boyer. John Gibson rides in 3rd with David Palmer in 4th position. Elsom managing to get up to P5. And then Michael Adams, 3 positions on the first lap.
I don't know, let's not count out Charlie Ferrer here. Up 5 positions, Matthew Scott up 6. Drew Kenny up 13. Neil Erbish up 17. We've got some big movers and shakers here early on in this race. As everybody comes up over South Bend, track temperature's a little bit on the chilly side. They're going to have to be careful through that section of the track. Very easy to lose it on cold tires.
Not too surprised we had that huge stack up there at the first corner, so a number of drivers managing to avoid the chaos. And find themselves a few positions throughout as they fly along Madison Avenue. Nick's looking for his brake marker into the roller coaster. Very blind, kinked entry over top of here, but it looks like he's going to hit it nicely. Let's see if everybody behind him can do likewise.
Well, it's a very, very tricky braking zone. Even though you're in a straight line there, Joe, you've got to trail brake into the corner a little bit more. But we're going to jump back here with Matthew Scott as he tries to chase down on Charlie Ferrer up ahead of him. Ferrer's got Jason Finch, but a good run there off of Hog Pen for Scott. This could be a move.
He's going to get a nice pull here along the front stretch. Let's see what he has for him down into turn one. And Ferrer going to hold the inside, just covers the very middle of the track. That leaves the door just enough open that Scott tries to dive in. And someone in front of them off course. They're going to give each other space. That's Elsom, who seems to have gone wide. Somebody else behind them as well spins. But in front of them, it does look like Scott is going to not be able to go, or no, Scott did get Ferrer, excuse me.
Yeah, he did, and it looks like Andrew Elsom and Andy Green, the two cars that were involved in that sort of spinning and sympathy moment there off of the top. I can tell you that Christopher Costas and Ward Preston are back down into pit lane here at this point, probably taking their spare car after damage sustained early on.
Well, definitely a bit sloppy compared to what we've seen lately, but I'm sure they'll get this together as it carries on. It's a long race to go, 57 minutes, and let's not forget there's going to be a pit stop here today before this is over. Kevin Yokel back in 14th. In the number 5 is trying to chase down Drew Kenny, but now behind him as you look here, that is the bright purple car of Curtis Crummell, who we know is out of position.
Yeah, Crummell's going to have some room to make up, and look how much he's pushing there, Joe, really extending that out as long as possible and trying to make that work. We're going to take a look at the car behind him right now, Eli Peacock, and look just how much Crummell was able to get that jump off of the line. That is a really, really good blast down Madison Avenue.
Got to think that getting those corner exits is going to be very key here today, especially if you want to try to make the passes, since there's so many tricky spots to try and get it done. Looks like we had a problem. That is Michael Adams there on the inside of roller coaster and trying to get it turned around, and he's being joined, unfortunately, by a couple other cars off the circuit. That's going to be Antonio Da Silva and Mark Frost.
Yeah, and once again, just going to show you the difficulty of that braking zone coming down into the corner like that. It can absolutely throw you for a loop if you're not ready for it. I have seen many a car go off there, really taking Adams a long time to get his way back on track, but we've got to check in here because this battle's certainly shaping up to be a good one.
Yeah, still really hounding him down into the corner. Nothing doing quite yet. Crummell stays in P14. Kevin Yokel in 13th. They got promoted a couple there by those spun cars at roller coaster. Now into NASCAR. Ben just glancing that inside curve. A lot more runoff to that outside that they didn't have prior to this new build of the track. And then it switches back and forth through the left hook and into the snake. Look there in front of them as well as Drew Kenny versus Will Kelly is getting hot.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're going to ride on board with Drew Kenny. Unfortunately, he's really not going to get a chance to get a move done here coming up through the rising S's. There's just not having enough of a braking zone, and the track's too narrow, but that's not going to stop Kenny from looking down to the inside there of South Bend, and he's going to go off.
A little bit too wide, and unfortunately he's way across. He's going to try and get the car stopped, and I think he just barely misses anybody coming down the backstretch. There you see him off the course. A very close moment between Gibson and Boyer zipping by him.
Yeah, and that is going to be the slowdown penalty to end all slowdown penalties here, Joe. Watch this. You can see he just got a little bit too aggressive here. Tries to go around the outside. That's going to be an off-camber corner that throws him off, tries to get the brakes on, and just nowhere to go. He runs all the way across the track onto the backstretch.
Oh, you can see just outside it was. And you're not expecting a car to go across the track at that point. We have to remember that. Yeah, watch him. He at least has visual, it looks like. So he dives to the inside, times it right, but that's going to be a heart-in-your-throat moment.
Oh, and Matthew Scott is down into pit lane here. That's a little bit surprising. I wouldn't have expected that from the 507. He must have picked up damage somewhere.
He's got a black flag, but I don't believe that should be something given by the stewards, as I'm not seeing something handed down by them at this moment. So he must have already gone over his incident limit. We're not even 10 minutes in. I don't foresee him finishing this race, if I'm honest.
Would that potentially be a jump start penalty issued by the service?
Oh, that could be. Yeah, good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that would be the most logical explanation that I can think of here at this point. But here nor there, as we continue to work our way through the field, focusing right now on that 911 machine as it continues to try to rise its way back up through the field here. John Gibson holding on, but we've got a little bit of a battle in front as well as Charlie Boyer and Daniel Nix closing down in on one another.
So the lead's starting to get a little bit spicy here. Gibson not too far back from them as well. There you can see him in the background. 1, 2, 3, all about 2 seconds apart. And then it's a big gap to Daniels, who's another 6 seconds back behind them. But clearly the pace at the front of the field is looking quite hot.
Yeah, it really and truly is. If you look at the lap times being set down, a 154 flat on that last lap for Nix, a 154.3. Everybody else behind John Gibson back down pretty much in the 155. So it is a blistering pace up here at the front of the field.
Looks like Daniels and Crummell and Drew Kenny as well are all black flagged for various incidents at the start. I believe those first two were for the first lap. Back to P5 between Finch and Kenny. Now Finch hopefully has got the memo that Kenny's got a black flag here because he won't be racing him for long. But Drew's not coming into pit lane. Now he gets, I believe, 3 or 4 laps to try and come and serve that penalty. But he's going to try and stay out as long as he can, I suppose.
Yeah, and it may have been an issue where he wasn't really made aware of that until he was past the point of commitment. It's a pretty tricky pit lane here. You're carrying a lot of speed to the outside, out around the exit of Hog Pen, and you've immediately got to put yourself right onto the right-hand side of the track. It is not the easiest thing to do. Right now, Finch still getting some hassle here behind from Kenny, but he's closing in and keeping the pressure up here to that purple and black machine. Now let's call it pink, black, and purple machine of Jordan Daniels right in front of him.
Absolutely, and Daniels, having qualified down in 8th position, has definitely risen quite a bit, but can he hold on to it? Finch also up 5 himself. Both of them really learning to gain a lot. We know that Kenny's up 21 positions, some of that gained by a little bit of an unfair advantage in this situation. Maybe he's just trying to stay patient here and wait behind them as they plunge back down through South Bend. Still no attack from that number 19, who needs to give up the ghost and serve that penalty way off the apex, though, for Jason Finch. He still makes the corner, but he lost a lot of time.
Yeah, that rear end just stepping out there. That comes from getting onto the throttle just a hair too early coming around Oak Tree. You've really got to time that right and really feather the throttle a little bit. You've got a little bit of camber coming into the corner, and you need to work that to your advantage and then get fully down on the throttle once you're pointed in the right way.
Just to make matters worse for poor Drew Kenny, he also has 11 incidents already. They get their first penalty at 17, so he's going to have to run a very clean race from here. Let's see if he'll try and come in this time. I thought I heard him maybe try to ask the stewards if they would remove the penalty, to which, of course, they gave him a no. And then Daniels, having to serve his, is also in, releasing Jason Finch to basically be a lot more alone than he was just a few seconds ago.
Yeah, he's going to be able to run in some clean air there and feel pretty good. That was Matthew Scott coming out of pit lane that you just saw, but we're actually going to check one position back here. This is David Palmer and Lee Binkley. A pretty good battle for the top 5.
Certainly seems like just holding it together, staying out of trouble is going to be so key today, DJ. We've seen some top runners already fall by the wayside, and a few drivers who kind of more mid-pack are suddenly way up there within the top 10.
Well, Joe, that's because this VIR circuit is notorious as one of the most difficult circuits to master in all of North America. It just throws corner at you one after another, and you really have to find that rhythm. And so I think for a lot of these drivers, they're struggling to find a little bit of that rhythm. They're struggling to get into that sort of momentum that they want to go on. And they're going to find themselves in trouble until they start to master this and let the car drive the track. You cannot overdrive around here. It will come back to bite you.
No doubt, as they exit off of Oak Tree, with Palmer still leading the way. Binkley's trying to give chase there in that Brumos livery Porsche. And then another famous livery just behind him with Matthew Scott rocking the Falcon scheme. And up they go through the hill, over the crests, and into the braking now of the roller coaster, but nobody close enough to try and pass this time, as I just think I saw Andrew Elsom have a problem towards the back of the pack.
Yeah, it looks like there's a couple of drivers that had a little bit of a problem. I think that may have been on the exit there of Oak Tree as we ride on board with P16 Adam Gerling at the moment, as Gerling is working his way around, and our director just gave him a note here. Up 16 positions on the day. It is a good run in Southern Virginia here for Adam Gerling.
Yeah, and Komatz is doing him a few better. Up 22 for the number 210 car. So yeah, I mean, this is a great day for points if you're someone who usually doesn't see very high positions, but we got a challenge down to the first corner as they weave back and forth on board with Urbesh looking back at all of it. Ooh, Mazzola is going to move late, and unfortunately that runs into Casion, who then flies off the track behind him, trying to stay within the boundaries. Gerling somehow still in there, and then now we got another one. Urbesh goes off on his own.
Oh, man, just a little bit too over-aggressive blocking there. Contact going down into the braking zone, and that is going to come back to bite some drivers, as Urbesh is going to be able to get the car going around, and that, to me, has the hallmark of the moment of the race, is that's Rob Neville now off, coming up through NASCAR Bend.
Wow, there are so many drivers that seem to be faltering here today. This is kind of shocking. Meanwhile, we go back to Binkley. He's definitely not one of those that is tripping up over himself. He's still got that fifth position, actually exactly where he began this race, interestingly. Binkley just behind him, up 5, as we mentioned a little bit ago. He's got a good slipstream. Let's see if this is going to be enough to attack into the roller coaster bent off to the right. He's sizing him up, and it goes back to the racing line. Yep, that's not going to be close enough.
Yeah, I think he was just a little bit too far back there. It was a good run there out of Oak Tree, but he just needed a little bit more speed. But don't worry, if he can maybe keep up some more speed here coming through Hog Pen, set himself up for the run. Oh, looks there like that's going to be a really good run for David Palmer, able to carry a massive amount of momentum on the outside of the track, and I think that's going to scupper Binkley's chances here for the moment.
Yeah, just not quite close enough. Not too far behind, we head over to Holland. He's sandwiched between Eli Peacock there in P10 and Patrick Gill in P12. They're relatively close, but it's going to take an ambitious move. We've seen some ambitious moves down into the first turn, and not many of them have gone well today. Let's see. Big defense there from Eli Peacock this time. And as he gets it woed up, they're going to stay in order, as now David Palmer has had a problem. And I think maybe it involves Matthew Scott.
Oh no, as this could be a little bit of an issue here. We continue to keep our eyes going on the number 22 of Eli Peacock at the moment, trying to figure out exactly there what happened to Palmer. But once again, Joe, I think the biggest danger for these drivers here aren't the other drivers out on the track, it's the circuit itself. Let's watch what happened to Palmer.
Yeah, race the track first and then race each other. Did Palmer get some help, or did he screw it up? Well, he just messed it up. It's an easy one to do down through NASCAR Bend. And unfortunately, the car behind just didn't have much place to go in the heat of the moment. So as we follow this crew, following behind De Silva, who is a lap down, we've got Palmer in 7th, Eskridge in 8th, and Yokel in 9th.
Yeah, and this is going to be a nice tight little battle here as they work their way down onto roller coaster here, trying to see if anybody's going to be close enough to be able to get a little bit of a poke out. It doesn't look like they're going to. They're going to stay in line here for the moment. But Adam Holland right now, the driver that we ride on board with, he's going to have a little bit of a look to the inside of the 22, but that's not going to be enough.
No, and he goes a little deep on top of things. He gathers it back up, and he keeps it from going off course and carries on. I have to say, is it just me, or did anybody else have the like color-changing Hot Wheels cars growing up? And Eli Peacock's just reminds me of that to a huge degree here tonight.
Yep, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. That looks exactly what it is here at this point, Joe. It kind of has that vibe to it, and I'm here for it.
Really digging it. It's a beautiful looking car, and right now it's running in the top 10 there in 9th place. Once again, not close enough for Adam Holland that time through. Quarter of the way through this one, still not even to the pit window being open. The good thing is we've only lost Drew Kenny and Charlie Fair. Everybody else is still out there on track. They do have a spare car in case they run into problems, and I think that's been helping them tremendously to ensure we have more of them still circulating. This is Daniel Nix, though, on your screen in the number 23. Looks like, DJ, he's kind of putting a little bit of a gap on Charlie now.
Yeah, he's starting to grow it out a little bit more. It's about 2.2 seconds here at this point as they run, and that's going to be just enough, I think, for him to have a little bit of breathing room and do exactly what we've been talking about, Joe. Focus on driving the track, not the drivers around you.
Absolutely. You just don't know what's going to happen here, especially if you're Holland, who's still trying to poke his nose on Eli Peacock. Needs a better exit. Boy, takes it wide. Same thing behind him. There's Adam Holland, swings it all the way out, but that was a pretty decent run, better than I anticipated. So suddenly Peacock is under threat.
Yeah, he certainly is. He has got a lot coming in behind him here at this point. Holland trying to make that move as we ride on board with Patrick Gill right now. Is that going to be enough? Holland is done exactly what I talked about at the beginning of the broadcast. Got the pass done before roller coaster.
Absolutely. Peacock looked like he wasn't really willing to fight that too hard, so let him through. Taking your advice as well. Just racing the track, not worrying about those around him. Next, behind him, Patrick Gill. Will we demote him another one, or are we going to see a harder fight out of the 22 machine? Another very good exit off of Hogpin this time instead. He's stalking him down the front stretch. Long right-hand curve here until it finally straightens out into the braking zone. Patrick's going to take a giant look and a giant dive, and I think he's going to get it.
I think he is as well. Makes it look easy there and plays it out to perfection. Gotta love that there from him.
That's Will Kelly in the 11, or the number 1 rather, who falls to 11th. Had a bit of an off. I'm not sure if he had any sort of help, but the sort of airplane liveried car is fallen outside the top 10 now. Let's take a look and see if we can figure out what happened to him. Ooh, maybe he did get help here.
All right, this is coming down into turn 1. He's going to move across in the braking zone there. Just carried too much speed into the corner. Joe didn't get that number 1 machine woe down enough, and Kelly's going to find himself in the outside barriers. Lucky he did not make contact, though, with the tire bundles.
Well, it was a short-lived dogfight. He took a nosedive into the grass, unfortunately. So he'll get back onto the circuit, but he's got some work to do from here. He's actually, interestingly, still up 6 positions from where he started. So it's not a bad day. It's just he maybe could have had a much better finish than what it's looking like now.
Yeah, I think that's about right. You've got to just kind of temper expectations here a little bit. And unless I'm mistaken, there is a just slight bit of damage there to the front end of that number 93. I don't think that's going to slow him down too much, but it's still enough to just keep an eye out for.
That's Mazzola. He's another one of our big movers with 21 positions gained. Behind him, Komat's up 26. I think this is them just trying to carry on as long as they can until they get down to that pit stop and maybe can use that spare car if they find it slowing them down. Andy Green has quite the buffet in front of him. That's Dave Krutzler, Will Mungia, Adam Gerling, and then we get up to Komatz and Mazzola, who we mentioned earlier. So all very close together, and Green is another driver that probably should be a little bit higher up than where he sits currently.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to be able to push his way forward a little bit more here. He's down 2 on the day. I've got to think he's going to have a little bit more speed underneath him to try to come back in. But once again, don't watch him to be too aggressive here. You need to just sit back and wait. Let the passes come to you. That's going to be the way to get on by.
Indeed, and they swing it down into NASCAR. A little wide there for Will in the 907. But he's not going to get overtaken quite yet. It's a short stretch down here to left hook. So it seems Krutzler's just going to have to stay patient, especially through this part of the circuit. And Krutzler's now having internet connection problems, which does not help matters.
No, it certainly does not, and I guarantee you there that Andy Green following directly behind him does not want to see that number 20 car blink at all, because you don't know where that car is going to reappear, and if that happens, that can absolutely ruin your race. But it looks like everybody's able to get themselves down there for South Bend. We've got a little bit of side-by-side farther back down in the field. This is Costas and Preston.
And that's going to give him 24th position. So Costas managing to go by Ward in a very tricky spot, honestly. Or no, he was under attack, I should say, and fended him off. He was trying to pass by Ankerberg Zona, and Anker was able to fend him off as we go side by side down the backstretch now. Komats on the attack on Gerling. Gerling not able to hold him behind, so move the number 210 up into 13th.
And crucially, that's going to be 26 positions gained here for Steve Komats. That is going to be your biggest riser of the race. And I certainly think with the declaration of move that he was able to make on that last one, he's not going to be the only one. That was that was a lapped car. That's the number 25 there, getting out of the way on the straightaway.
Yeah, that's De Silva. He had a spin coming out of Hogpen, brought it back onto the track. Thankfully, did not hit anything. We get another overtake coming down into the horseshoe. Munguia just behind the blinking Krutzler. But I think David has been warned by the stewards about his internet connection. So he's not going to be able to have that happen too many more times before they're going to park him.
No, they take a very dim view of that. If your internet is not up to fighting shape, they will let you know quite quickly about it as we focus in on this long train of cars here at this moment. Just continuing to be Komats, leading from Gerling, Munguia, and Krutzler. A little bit of side-by-side here farther up, though. This is going to be Kelly and Peacock.
Kelly gives it up and gets back single file. Don't blame him. You really don't want to go through the climbing S's side by side. So Kelly back behind the bright orange and purple number 22, thinking about a look down into the first apex of Oak Tree. That's a very tough place to try and overtake. Needs to focus on the exits and actually does a fairly decent job. Is this one going to be on?
Well, I think they're coming off of the corner. The Peacock caught a little bit of wheel spin, and that's going to put him back on his back foot here. Kelly looking to take advantage. Peacock going to be trying to hold down to the right-hand side of the track. Now moves to the middle to try to just take up as much track as possible. Is Kelly going to be able to get this to go into the braking zone? Not quite able to do it.
Yeah, he was very close, and boy, he's good under braking. And Kelly not able to overtake him quite yet, but he's definitely threatening. Unfortunately for fans of David Krutzler, he has been given a black flag for his connection, so he's going to have to come and park it and get that sorted out before he'll be allowed to return to the track. But really sad to see, considering he's not had that bad of a day, and should have gotten a pretty good result if it weren't for just one of the things that's sometimes a little bit out of your control in sim racing.
Yeah, and that sort of mimics, you know, some of the, wow, is Andy Green also very good on the binders coming down into Horseshoe there. But it does mimic some of the mechanical gremlins that you get when you're out racing in real life. So it's a good one-to-one comparison there on the simulator.
Whoa, down to the inside. He's given space. That was ambitious stuff there. I think that was Andy Green still trying to move past Will Munguia, but still nothing doing. Behind them, they've got Chad Casion giving watch. This is all behind another trio of Adam Gerling, Steve Komats, and Colin Mazzola. Komats was a little slow. Oh, we could have a side-by-side into the S's. No, thank goodness we don't. Gerling thinks twice about it.
Yeah, and I think more than anything there from Adam Gerling, well, at least what I would hope that move was just trying to get Komats offline a little bit. That's a lot of what these pokes and prods coming into the snake, coming into the rising S's are going to be. Ooh, that was a very late maneuver there to dive around some lap traffic for the number 42 of Andy Green.
This is all a great battle here. Essentially, what is for 12th, Mazzola's at the front of it in that position. And goes all the way back to Casion in 17th. He's gaining on that number 907. Will's not going to go defensive, it seems like, at this stage, just holding his racing line. And Casion will stay put as well. So we're starting to approach that pit window. And I wonder if we're going to start seeing some drivers try to duck in, or if going long is going to be the call of the day.
I mean, that's what we've seen many times here in this series. It just seems to be that going long tends to produce the best results for you. And so I got to imagine that's what it's going to be. The only thing that could throw it around is if you're locked in one of these very close battles, we could see somebody try to come in, get themselves a little bit of clean track. Yeah,
that could be the call here. Just try to get out of all the mess that you might be in, especially that group that we were watching there briefly as drivers kind of had no place to go. down through, and way out there on NASCAR Bend. Unfortunately, that might lose a position for Casey on, and it does. Will Munguia is going to get that spot back after briefly being behind him.
Yeah, good heads up there from Munguia to be able to make that play and get himself back up into 16th. As we look down a little bit farther in the field, this is Peter Yerkser right now with Christopher Costas and Ward Preston behind him. And that's Costas actually making a move there, going down into the left hook.
Things getting frantic out here once again. Everybody's looking eager to try and make something happen. As it switches back once more, that's Costas just in front of them. Robert Neville, as well as Theodosis Neocli, who's a lap down at the front of that group. So that's not for position in front of them. At some point, they're going to want him to kind of move out of the way.
Yeah, they're certainly going to want that to happen. Hopefully he will kind of recognize that and do that of his own accord here. So we ride on board with Ward Preston, currently back down in 23rd. As he tries to close in on Yerkes, they're going to send a move down into Oak Tree, given space, but doesn't have the grip to do it, and he's going to fall off a little bit.
Oh, a spin in front of him. Robert Neville is going to go off course and way into the weeds. That's sort of the blessing and the curse of this track, DJ, is, yes, the barriers are pretty far away in a number of places, but, man, it takes a minute to get back to the circuit.
Yeah, it really and truly does. You've got to kind of woe the car back up under you and navigate yourself over the ice grass that does make up the majority of this circuit. As we take a look back on this battle, Will Kelly looking very aggressive again. Eli Peacock, whoa!
And Peacock goes way off course and into the tires. Wonder if he'll get a penalty out of that one. So Peacock is going to carry on, and I'm not sure if that was an intentional move or if he just lost sight of his braking, but Kelly just kind of sent it.
Well, looking at that replay, let's take another look at this. That's Will Kelly here on the number one that we're going to ride on board with. He gets a little bit sideways coming out of the corner there as they line up here for NASCAR Bend. I would say he missed his braking zone on that, Joe, and probably tried to be a little bit aggressive to go for the move. And I think it was a combination there of the two, trying to be too late on the brakes and just missing that braking zone altogether.
Meanwhile, we come back to the battle between the 93 and the 42. Andy Green really putting some pressure on to that car of Colin Mazzola. And then Steve Komatz is directly behind him, as well as Adam Gerling. So he can't make too many mistakes, can't try and slow himself up too much here, because those behind are going to be immediately on top of that Porsche as they approach the braking for the roller coaster once again around the outside. Green feels brave again, and then he backs out of it.
He's going to back out of it there, and that's really just allowed for Gerling to be able to close in on his back a little bit more. Komatz to close in on his rear wing a little bit more here at this point. So the 210 looking to be involved, but look at that speed there that Green is really able to carry down through Hawk, and that is very impressive stuff out of the 42.
Somebody needs to tell these guys that these are not the GT3 cars anymore. They don't have the downforce, because there's some ambitious stuff happening. Meanwhile, Green, once again, trying to shake his way around Mazzola. Breaks deeper around the outside of the first corner, and behind them, it's a little bit too hard for Steve Komatz. He's going to have to give up a spot just because he slid out in the marbles. Gerling now side by side with him, but he decides to give it up, as he's also not in an advantageous spot in the NASCAR Bend.
No, he's not, and I can tell you here as we watch Gerling taking a little bit of a look down into left hook that we speculated if Will Kelly was going to get a penalty for that move. Well, it has happened. Kelly is down in pit lane serving that penalty as we speak.
Yeah, not too great of a shock, so he's serving that now, and he'll be back out on course to try and carry on. Back to Green once again behind Mazzola. Just slides in behind that purple machine as they start to climb the hill over the blind crest. And then it's going to dive left here down South Bend as they try to spot their brake marker into Oak Tree. Whipping across the track on the racing line here. Each trying to make the best of it, and including an ambitious move. Once again, ambition is the word of the day, and Green couldn't get it done. Instead, it compromises his exit. Now Steve Komatz is on top of him.
Yeah, here comes Komats looking one way, looking the other. He's going to poke his nose to the inside here, but unfortunately for him, Andy Green is still going to be getting the draft there off of Colin Mazzola, going down the latter stages of the backstretch. Later on the binders, though, goes Komats trying to be able to make it, goes Gurley trying to make that work, and it looks like Komats able to make it play.
That's up to P12, 27 positions gained. Still the hardest charger of the whole race and not stopping yet. Steve Komats is on a mission out there. How many more can he snatch before this race is over? We passed the halfway mark, so we just have to do this all over again one more time.
I don't know if these drivers or myself are going to be able to hold up to this kind of action for another 30 minutes here, Joe, as we watch Kaysion on board with Kaysion. That's Gerling going pretty defensive down into Horseshoe as Gerling tries to take a little bit of a look on him. Now the 907 Amundia going to have a little bit of a rough run. Here's Komats back up at the front of this battle as Komats is looking on the back of Mazzola now, but he runs wide in contact there with Andy Green.
And Green comes across the track and he runs into Mazzola. This checks everybody up and they try to ease their way around. More contact between cars. It's a traffic jam, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness gracious, all of these GT4s and more of them. That's Mazzola and Komats making contact and going off into the barriers.
Wow, bizarre wreck that just kind of cascaded and kept going. Unfortunately, so Mazzola involved twice. Komats tried to avoid the incident, although you could say that Komats was the one that started it.
Yeah, you certainly could, as there's Andy Green just searching for grip. I wonder if that car is toast, as it looks like he's going to pull off to the side there. And yes, indeed, he is going to take a tow back down to pit lane.
I mean, if we see a replay for that, we almost need a blimp view because there's just so much happening in that situation. It was a comedy of errors. And a few made it through, but there's very few that made it through without any sort of contact. I'm trying to see, looks like Gerling was able to get up to 11th because of that, so nice gain from him. Kaysion up to P12. Let's take one more look at it. Yeah, so it's this initial bump off to the left that starts it all off.
And really and truly there, Joe, I don't think he saw him coming up to the inside. I don't think that there was recognition there of that happening. And then you see just that absolute domino effect as everybody sort of brought their way back on here. And then again, let's take a look. I didn't get a good view. Just two cars going into the same piece of real estate there. I think that's what took him out.
Yeah, going too wide through the snake is always very tricky. It's kind of a single lane area of the track. Ooh, nice pass there coming up the inside as Adam Gerling was not taking no for an answer. And so then unfortunately just having to take off the track as Green had a car that was way too damaged to carry on. What about David Boyer? That looks like a scheduled stop to me. So he should be back out onto the course here pretty soon. No, he's got a black flag.
So he's going to have to serve that. Not entirely. That's got to be given by iRacing, because I'm not seeing a mandate put down here by race control. That's got to be an incident limit.
That would be my guess. I wouldn't be too shocked if we saw a number of drivers that wound up hitting that number. Unfortunately, it's just been a little bit messy out there. Meanwhile, back to Kaysion, up 11 positions now. It appears that Gerling and Munguia are our two hardest chargers, both up 21 positions. Mazzola's up 19, so he's not doing too bad. Komats also up 21. He's fallen back to 18th spot.
Yeah, the question here is going to be, with this battle, is Chad Kaysion, who's only up 11 positions, is he out of place here? And is Gerling going to be able to streak off into the distance a little bit? Or are either of these cars suffering from a little bit of damage? We saw a pretty heavy front-to-rear contact there from Chad Kaysion as they went down through the snake. And I wonder if that did some damage to the front end of that Porsche 718 Cayman.
Yeah, I think that it's been a little bit of banging about for a few of these cars, and they probably are suffering the consequences from that one. As here we go, Daniel Nix back up at the front. Well, very little in the way of consequences involved in mistakes here, because we haven't seen any from him. He's about 3.8 seconds ahead of Charlie Boyer, so he's got well control over his next nearest rival, and just seems to be kind of managing the race.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he needs to do here. The biggest thing that he's going to have to come into play on at this point is he is going to have a little bit of lap traffic to deal with. David Boyer up ahead of him, Rob Neville about 6 seconds up the road. So that could provide a little bit of a problem for him. But at this point, it's just all about management and keeping things together.
And Komatz, because of, I think they're holding him culpable for that big incident down into the snake and through left hook. He's been given 2 penalties. So he's going to serve that one, and I think he's going to have to come out and get another one and carry on. There he is now, taking the first one. He just announced that he's in now. So here we come back up to Kaycian and Gerling, vying for that 11th spot, separated by not but 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of close running here. Kaycian just trying to figure out how to be able to get that move to play. Didn't quite get the run off of Oak Tree that I think he would have liked to, but if he can just keep pressure here to the back of Gerling, maybe make Gerling drive in his rearview mirrors a little bit more, that's going to be almost enough to be able to get this to play.
Got to give Kaycian credit, because he's definitely been in the thick of the action and has done a good job getting these positions, but I can't say that I've seen him do anything foolish so far. He's had a very cool head on his shoulders. So what does he do now that he's got to overtake the number 22 machine, or number 31 machine rather, as they come onto the front stretch? Not enough of an exit there, but still within range.
Yeah, still within range here, and once again, this is the way to drive VIR. Just constant pressure to the driver in front of you. See if you can be able to try to push a little bit more. See if you can get that driver in front of you to overdrive the car a little bit, and that's the way to get a move done around here. And I like what Kaycian is doing, just keeping up calm, consistent pressure.
Unbelievably, we still have not lost any more cars after that. Komatz is heading back out on track now, and it's still only Kenny and Ferrer that have exited this race. We've got 37 cars running with 22 minutes left now, and we're waiting for a huge chunk of the front of the field to take their scheduled pit stop.
Oh, there's a little bit of a look from Kaycian. It does look like a couple of drivers coming in to take that scheduled pit stop here at this point. Peter Yerxa, Andrew Elsom, looks like they're all coming in right now. So I think that could be going out there. But Kaycian being a little bit more aggressive here at this point, trying to push his way ahead. I think the pressure may be flipping here a little bit, and Kaycian's starting to feel the heat to try to get this move done.
Yeah, I think he wants to try and do what he can now rather than sitting around and waiting. The flip side to all the cars that we have still out there is that because there's been so many offs and so many spins today, we are down to 17 cars left on the lead lap. So there's not going to be all that many to wait to cross the line. I think here it's going to be relatively quick. Kevin Yokel now also in the number 5. That's one of our highest drivers to have pitted, I think.
Yeah, that's a top 5 driver coming on in, and I think that could be the sign that things are starting to change. Based off my calculations, it should be about 45 minutes is as long as these drivers are able to go, so that'll be 15 minutes left on the clock there. And with lap times at just under 2 minutes, I'd expect it pretty much this lap or the next.
Kaycian's going to go for it. They're coming down into the first corner, and Gerling's trying to fend him off. Gerling goes a little bit deep. He's going to go for the over-under, and I think Kaycian's got it. That's going to move him into the top 10.
Oh, that was a sweet move there from Chad Kaycian to be able to get that to play. Very, very heads up. Poked his nose to the inside, recognized that he was able to put Gerling offline a little bit, and that's going to be able to make it work. Here it is, just a classic over-under move.
Again, there's that patience, that cool head that we're seeing at a 379, doing exactly what he needs to do in the moment. So he'll carry on, and there was the replay of the pass as they head back up the hill. And, Patrick Gill just had a problem. Patrick Gill, another driver with an issue up from the front of the field. I think maybe he was in the wall there just before Oak Tree.
Yeah, I think he was as well. Looked like he had a little bit of a problem coming out of South Bend. But, Joe, it looks like Nix and Boyer here, 2 of our top 3 into pit lane.
I'm going to take a look. I'm going to guess South Bend bit this purple and white machine. I know I have certainly bended into that tire barrier many, many times. Yep, wheels off into the grass, and off he goes.
Well, and I loved that shot there that our director, Ryan Bauer, was able to give us, because it really showed you just how much lateral load is coming through these Porsche GT4s, coming up through the Rising Snake. These tires are working to the absolute extreme to try to hold on to this track, and it is not easy to do as we watch your former leader, Daniel Nix, coming out of pit lane in what looks like P5.
Looks like a standard stop, no dramas there. Boyer also taking service behind him. I see Adam Holland in as well. Remember I mentioned Yoko Pitta, he's back in 15th, but he's not going to catch those guys. So expect him to just maybe pick up a few laps later. This is John Gibson, our new leader, up 3 positions from where he started, but he needs to hand at least one of those back once he takes his pit stop. Jason Finch behind him by 15 seconds right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty hefty gap here at this point as they run, but a lot of drivers coming down into pit lane. Peacock, Gerling, Munguia, Casey on Gill, Smith, Preston, all of them opting to take their pit stops here.
Yeah, this looks pretty close to the end of the pit window, I think, based on what we're seeing. So probably the rest of the car is able to go in from here, having saved enough fuel to make one extra lap. That's not an easy feat around this track. It takes nearly 2 minutes to circulate here, DJ, so if they're going an extra lap compared to everybody else, they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, they really, really did, and it's not the easiest, as you said, to be able to do good fuel saving around here. You've really got to be up on the wheel and pushing pretty hard through the S's, or through the Rising S's and through the Snake to be able to get everything right. Finch going to come down into pit lane here at this point, as is Gibson in front of him.
So there's the 2 that inherited the lead. Binkley follows. We just need Ken Eskridge from here, and that's going to be everybody in. And Daniel Nix should theoretically re-inherit the lead, and indeed, Ken Eskridge is down onto the lane. So Daniel Nix coming along the front stretch, getting ready to take that top spot back. Gibson still in his stall. He's starting to take off now, but Nix is by, and the gap going to be about the same as it was before, but a little smaller. It was a 20.1 second stop for John Gibson. That's actually very, very fast.
Yeah, that's very, very quick for them, and so that's going to be a good run here for Gibson, putting a little bit pressure onto the back of Nix. Let's see if he's able to keep it up on track, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. Finch starting to return to the circuit. Binkley as well. Ken Eskridge. Adam Holland, is he gonna, yeah, he'll be about 6th place, it looks like. So how about the 144 car here? He has got himself up 18 positions from the start, qualified in 24th. And now that the pit stops are done, this does look legitimate.
Yeah, I think it is here at this point. It looks like Michael Adams has had a little bit of a problem there in back. I'm showing him as off track at the moment, but I do believe this is a legitimate run here.
Yeah, so, man, kudos to Adam Holland. Let's cross our fingers that he can make it to the finish line. This is, I'd say it's proving to be difficult, but we seem to be getting most of them working their way towards it and haven't had any other retirements of the 2 that I mentioned since the very start. Daniel Nix about 4 seconds ahead of John Gibson. Let's see what the laps look like afterwards, because who knows, maybe Gibson was a little too greedy on the fuel as we go side by side between Neville and Andy Green. This is for 27th spot. Both of these drivers would have been fighting for what was likely a top 10 earlier on.
And they just got caught out by that big melee and the multiple melees, frankly, that we've seen over the course of this race. By the way, we had another driver spinning around and back and able to gather it up back up underneath him. But this actually happened directly in front of Adam Gerling and Will Munguia here at this point, and they both had to jump on the binders. This battle was down to about 0.3 of a second. It expanded up to about 0.8. It's now running at about 0.4.
Gerling leading there in the 12th position. He's up 20, Will's up 21 spots, 15 minutes left to go on the clock. A quarter of the race still left to go. Way too slow of an exit for Will. And did we have a problem? Jason Finch is in pit lane with a black flag, and I think that is incident limits.
Yes, I do think it is, as I have not seen anything issued here by race control, and so that has got to be an incident limit there for a driver that was up into the top 5. Heartbreak on the day, Joe.
That means Holland is into the top 5. So he's now up 19 positions. How many more can we see come out of this one? As we head out of Hogpen and back up the front stretch, still watching this fight between Will and Gerling for P12. It looks like Finch is going to get back out before they approach him, and we'll hold on to that position. There is Jason Finch back in that blue machine, taking the 356 out for what will hopefully be an uneventful final few laps.
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully going to be a good run there for him as everybody works their way around here at this point, and we wait to see how it'll play.
Now, Finch, I'm hearing, only has one incident point. The only other thing I can think of is if potentially he cut the course somewhere and didn't give enough time back, which is a bit of a silly way to wind up losing what would be a top 5, but we'll have to look into that a little bit later. Back on Jordan Daniels, the man that has had problems very early in this race and has been trying to recover ever since. Next on his list is another driver that's kind of been involved in some craziness. That's Mazzola, and boy, very different lines between them heading through left hook.
Yeah, very different lines indeed. They're going to try to hold it together here, but I'm really amazed that both of them were able to keep that playing out, as now they're going to bring their way here up through the rising S's to see if they can get anything again here for Mazzola. He's just going to have to be patient. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, going back to check and see if I can find something on Jason Finch here. Oh, he had just come out of his pit stall. I wonder if he sped in pit lane. I bet you that's it.
I bet you you're right about that, Joe. That could be exactly what the problem was.
So that would probably solve the mystery. We don't know for sure, but it's a good educated guess, I think, at this stage. Back up along Madison Avenue, looking to try and spot their brake markers. Mazzola versus Daniels for 17th position. We're back up to 26 cars on the lead lap. So some of the cars that have fallen off the lead lap, it seems to have been due to the pit stop cycle. Meanwhile, that is Adam Gerling off the course, unfortunately. So that ends that battle. I think that's what we're getting a replay of.
Yeah, I think it is as well. This is Gerling coming down into roller coaster here at this point. Does he just get it wrong? Does he get a little bit of help? He's pushed off to the inside. Oh, gets a big bit of help there.
Well, that's one of those unfortunate things of roller coaster. If the driver behind you gets it just slightly wrong, sometimes you're not aware of it until it's too late, and he had no way to avoid that one.
Yeah, he really didn't. That was absolutely nothing that he could do there at that point to be able to withstand anything, and was just kind of a little bit of a hapless passenger, it has to be said.
Was that Will Munguia that we were watching that ran into him there? So
yes, yeah. It was, Joe. Yes, it was.
Getting confirmation behind the scenes as well. So that's probably going to be looked at here in a bit. Charlie Boyer in P6, starting to approach on Adam Holland. How hard should the 144 fight? Should he try and fend this off, or should he be glad to be at least in the top 6, considering how far back he started?
I personally, if I were driving here at this point, I would be in that latter category, Joe. But if you put a carrot in front of a racing driver, it is always going to be game on and push, push, push to try to be able to get your way ahead. So I think he's going to be fighting for this position.
No surprise, the 907 given a black flag for the contact that we saw down into the roller coaster. Hopefully no contact here. Boyer going to try and wait patiently. He's not going to force the issue. And Holland definitely defending. Definitely wants to try and keep that top 5 to the end. So far, good, clean, respectful racing. Let's hope that that lasts.
Yeah, let's hope it lasts indeed here at this place with only about 10 minutes and 30 seconds to go. I could see some elbows getting out here before everything is said and done, but both of these drivers just need to keep their head about them. It's a good run here at this point. Yes, you want that last position, but no need to throw it all away.
Might only be 5 laps to go. It's about a 154 typically for laps around here for the top runners, and we're about 10 minutes left. Daniel Nix actually is being held up currently by a little bit of lap traffic, but I think he's built enough of a buffer that he's mostly sitting okay. And in fact, as we watch coming around here in that fight for P5, Holland still making sure to cover off the lines. Boyer can't do much, tries to use up every bit of that runoff that he can that's within legal limits, and you can use up quite a bit of that, but doesn't seem to give him what he needs. Now we're going to take a look at Nix, and this is where it gets a little bit frustrating. That's David Boyer, the other Boyer, and Andrew Elsom fighting for position, but a very polite David Boyer pulls out of the way.
Yeah, very, very heads up there from Boyer. And this is exactly what I was talking about a little bit before that pit stop cycle, Joe, is that Nix is going to have to be careful here, because if you put another car offline, as there was a little bit of contact there in the back, if you put another car offline, they're going to find themselves in a world of trouble. So you as a lapping car need to know where those gaps are and where it's safe to make those passes.
That was Elsom and Green having that little bit of touch there through left hook. Charlie Boyer, is he going to go for it again? No, he's going to sit patiently and get back to the racing line once more. Now, behind them, is that a car for position? No, that's Krutzler, it looks like. So that is both lapped cars behind them. Thought maybe that they were being chased down, and actually poor Krutzler's just been given another connection warning issued by the stewards. Weaving back and forth down through left hook. Adam Holland has stayed cool up to this point. How much longer will he hold that resolve? Because look at how close Charlie Boyer's getting, and he's going to try and threaten, coming too wide up into the climbing S's, and the resolve is gone. Holland decides it's not worth fighting for. He's going to accept sixth.
Yeah, very, very heads-up play there from Holland. I think he knew if he was going to try to fight that, it was going to be day over there for him. Boyer now able to move his way up into P5, regain a little bit of that good running that he had during qualifying.
Yeah, on the front row, and not going to be finishing that high, it seems, unless something crazy happens here. We've had another retirement. Will Kelly is the latest to be out of this race. Only the third retirement of the entire race. But could see the number 20 join them, Dave Krutzler, again, getting that warning. They could actually remove him from the serve if they don't like what they see in the end. Back to Jordan Daniels here in the 16th position, just behind Mazzola for P15.
Yeah, trying to be able to close in, and they've got to be a little bit careful. Ward Preston about 0.5 of a second behind them as well. So if these two really start to scrap, rest assured that Ward is going to be trying to close in and see what he's going to be able to do. That's going to be factoring into the minds here of Jordan Daniels as he tries to make this move on Mazzola.
Mazzola's not going to want to throw this one away. He's up 18 spots right now, tying Adam Holland for hard charger currently as they go up Madison Avenue, coming down to, I believe, going to be 3 laps to go. Actually, they're close to being lapped, if I'm seeing correctly. Yeah, Daniel Nix was just coming onto Madison Avenue. Now, I don't think he has enough laps left that he can catch them, but that tells you just what kind of pace the leaders have been running.
Yeah, it's absolutely lights out. They're still running in the 154s, to be specific. Nix ran a 154.76 on that last lap.
Why is it going into pit lane? That's Daniels. Does he have a black flag? No black flag.
He must have underfueled the car.
Oh, man. Frustration for the 069. We're checking. I'm watching to see if it's a splash and dash here out of our window and where that car will be able to emerge. He's definitely going to go down a lap, unfortunately. It's not a splash and dash. It's still 8 seconds. Well, this is very strange. 10 seconds. Almost like, did Jordan Daniels come into the pit lane and take service very early, maybe? Take a spare car?
I'm not entirely sure there. We will have to see and kind of go back and take a look at the tape there, Joe. I had a little bit of a problem on my end, so I'm not immediately able to pull up those stats here. But, yeah, very, very strange incident there. Strange coming down pit lane for Jordan Daniels.
I'm going to guess that maybe there was an incident, had to come in, take a spare car, took what fuel that he could, but unfortunately maybe was too early by a few minutes, in fact, by almost 5 minutes to be able to finish out this race, which has got to be all the more enraging there for the 069. Back to Mark Frost in 23rd, which is just up the road from Jordan Daniels. He's in a fight with Robert Neville.
Yes, he truly is here at this point. Neville trying to put some pressure to the back of him here, up through the rising S's again. Calm, patience, that's going to be the way to get by here for Neville, but he wants to try to get on this top 21 if he can.
Down into the Oak Tree double right-hander once again. Ooh, very good exit from the 087. Not quite good enough, though, because Frost is clinging to him, and David Boyer is actually just in front as well. So a three-way fight for 21st.
Yeah, three-way fight here as Boyer continues to try to hold in as well at this point. Excuse me, Frost continues to try to hold in as well. They're chasing down on Boyer. Let's see if anybody's going to be able to get anything to play here coming down at a roller coaster. As we close down on these laps, I think the better overtaking opportunity that we've seen, Joe, is really going down into Horseshoe.
Absolutely. So they exit the last turn out of Hogpen. Very good exit indeed, and now they're starting to weave as Boyer feels under threat, and Neville has the draft, goes to the outside. He's still going to have to outbrake him because he's not fully done with this. Does he chop down at the apex? He just about does, and he gets the position. P21 for the 087.
Nice move there for that 087 of Neville. He's going to be riding high here at this point as we close down on the last moments of this race.
Now, it was 3:55 to go, and I think they're going to be about 3 seconds short. Now, Nick could slow this up, but remember, the drivers have to calculate how much fuel they want to put in here to get to the finish, and they can potentially short fuel this one. So if Nix wants to play games with everybody, he could try and extend it an extra lap.
Yeah, if he knows he's got that extra bit of fuel, as Andy Green there takes a little bit of a look on the back of the cars in front of him. That's the number 23 there that he tries to be able to get around. But yeah, I wonder here what Nix is going to do. Maybe he's in an underfuel situation where he needs to back off a little bit and see how that goes.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because we don't know for sure that he's got enough. That said, it was 23 seconds, which is on the higher end compared to most. I think he played it safe in there. So I anticipate he's got enough to try and get to the finish no matter the number of laps. As they weave down the hill, he's getting held up by Steve Komatz, who has been in the wars today, to say the least. But there is Daniel Nix in his VR headset. This is going to be decisive. If it's 1:53 or less, then it's only one lap to go. It'd be the white flag. But I'm not seeing that being the case because we're still 2 minutes left and he's approaching it. 2 laps left to go.
2 to go here from VIR, and once again, as you said, Joe, this is going to be that moment where you're going to start worrying a little bit about fuel. As down to the inside there, that was him getting offline a little bit. It looked like one of those lap cars wanted to try to take advantage and move his way forward.
Just overshot it a little bit, and that was Steve Komatz, who's now going to let Andy Green down through. Down to 18 cars left on the lead lap. Adam Gerling is the final one. I think I predicted earlier that I didn't think he was going to catch him, and I've been proven wrong yet again.
Yeah, indeed, and now he is going to try to catch up with them, and this may be enough run, and that is going to be pretty impressive. They're up to P18, putting these cars down a lap, and that shows you just the pace that Nix has, even with all of those problems, still running down into a 54 there for Nix on that last lap. That is how quick that number 23 is.
And frankly, really consistent. I'm looking at it. It's all high 53s, low 54s, pretty much all down the board. And that's with all this traffic that he's been dealing with, mind you. So this has been an impressive performance. Nick's really putting the line in the sand here in this second race. I don't know if it's that he likes these GT4 cars, he likes VIR, but today is certainly looking like it's his day.
Yeah, it certainly is, and without seeing him really back off around here and the longer pit stop that Nix took, there is almost nothing that can throw him off here at this point. The only thing he's just got to be careful for here is Gerling up ahead of him. Peter Yerxa is the next driver. That's going to be P17, but he's about 3.5 seconds up the road, and I don't think we are going to see Nix catch him in time.
20 seconds left to go. He's been hanging out patiently behind Gerling. This could be a slightly slower lap, but he'd have to slow it up by about 7 seconds, and I don't think it's going to be that much off the pace. And there it goes, past the line. White flag is out. 4 extra seconds left. Hope everybody has calculated for just a little bit of a leeway.
Well, you've got to hope that they do, but if we've got a couple of drivers sputter into the line, we're going to know exactly what the reasoning is here at this point. And we've seen this in real life. We've seen this here in the sim plenty of times. Joe, this is a real heart-in-mouth moment for a lot of these drivers.
So we check on board with Andy Green. That's Gerling. That is for position right there. So this is the first car is a lap down, essentially. So P18 between the pair of them. Andy Green had his issues a little bit earlier in this race. We saw him have to take off track and then tow. He thinks about it up into the climbing S's, then thinks again as they weave back and forth, looking for South Bend off of the left-hand side. If I'm Green, I think coming off of Oak Tree is going to be the way to go. Whoop,
yeah,
maybe
exactly.
into it.
Yeah, maybe he's going to go for the move here. Now, that could be a little bit of an opportunity to try to put him offline, to try to put Gerling offline. And look how much momentum he was able to carry, Joe. I think that's exactly what Green needed to do.
I mean, if he was trying to get that over-under, that's very, very savvy out of him. Clever stuff. I don't think it's going to quite work unless he gets a super aggressive coming into roller coaster. We've got just enough time to watch this before we get to the finish here. Oh, it doesn't seem to be quite there. He's going to run out of time, unfortunately, unless he's quicker down the front stretch. But I wouldn't bet on it, that's for sure. Daniel Nix, in the meantime, if you bet on this man, it was a good one. He started it on the pole. He has dominated the race. He didn't lead every single lap, but it looks like that won't matter because he is going to take the win here today at VIR.
A commanding drive here from Nix, a gap of 13.5 seconds as he crossed over the line, and that is all due to traffic management, that difference between himself and Gibson.
Green just about did get that run past Gerling. It was 13 thousandths between them for 18th position. 17th, actually, it looks like. So Adams is going to, Gibson's going to wind up in second, I believe. And then it looks like, did something happen to Michael Adams in the 56? I'm getting some weird things on my timing and scoring here, actually.
I believe, yeah, he's shown as out down in pit lane. I think he ran out of fuel, Joe.
Did not anticipate the inevitable. Lee Binkley now gets promoted into third. So Ken Eskridge, P4. Charlie Boyer does get that top 5. And Adam Holland, 6th position with a gain of 18.
That is mighty, mighty impressive of a run there, Joe. You've got to give credit to these drivers who are really able to move their way up through the field. Very impressive stuff.
Peter Yurza, the last lonely car, trying to find his way to the checkered flag here, and I'm not seeing all that many in the way of battles to the line. Craig Smith and Mazzola kind of separating from one another, and Ward Preston not able to hold on as well. So Yurza, as I mentioned, only 16 cars to be able to complete all 32 laps here for the sport class. That means it's time to head for a short break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Brake a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to VIR Race 2 here for the sport class. Certainly was interesting. But Daniel Nix had one of the more uneventful races up at the front. Went in by 13 seconds over John Gibson, and Lee Binkley wound up third. 8 positions gained for both him and Ken Eskridge, P4 for Ken. It was Charlie Boyer getting the top 5, although he started on the front row, so a little bit of a slip up early on, kind of was costly in the end. Adam Holland impressed us, going from 24th to 6th, as Kevin Yokel was 7. Then it was Chad Casey on 8th position, up from 23rd, and Patrick Gill behind him did one better, 25th to 9th. After that, it was Jason Finch to round out your top 10.
In 11th, it was Eli Peacock, followed by Craig Smith, with Colin Mazzola, your biggest mover of the day, up a whopping 20 positions. Then it was Ward Preston and Peter Yerxa. No slouches there either, up 12 and 14 respectively to round out your top 15. Adam Gerling, who was up 16, finished in 16th. Then it was Andy Green, Rob Neville, and Mark Frost to round out your top 20.
We'll just scroll through the rest of the results. Despite having lots of incidents, we actually only saw, I believe, somewhere around 4 DNFs here today. Had a late one there with Adams that confused us for a moment, but one man that was a sure thing was Daniel Nix. Daniel, a victory from pole position. For us, it looked pretty straightforward. Did it feel that way in the cockpit?
Yeah, it felt pretty straightforward. We were incredibly prepared for this race, and we did everything right. I ran a clean race, and we took home a podium. Couldn't ask for better.
Now, you took a slightly longer pit stop than a lot of the other drivers at 23 seconds. You crossed the start-finish line with 3 seconds left to take that white flag. Did you know it was going to be that close, or were you just kind of, just in case, giving yourself some leeway?
I've lost a podium to running out of gas, and I told my crew chief, let's not let that happen. We have some space, so didn't want to take the chances, and having my mind at ease allowed me to just drive a clean race.
That was an incredibly smart call. I think that helped get you a very comfortable win here today. And the other question I have then is, would you say that the GT4 at VIR is just a good one for you that you really like, or do you feel like you're going to be like this for much of the season and all the different combinations we have?
I drive by feel. I can drive any car. So I told you 2 weeks ago I was going to win this one. I plan to win Suzuka next week in the Cup car.
All right, I like that. The gauntlet thrown down.
I'm going to have to practice now.
Yeah, I got to back it up. So congratulations, sir. And we do hope to get to talk to you when we get to Suzuka.
All right, have a good one.
Our winner, Daniel Nix, up at the top, who sounds pretty confident. But what about John Gibson? DJ has caught up with second place.
I have indeed, John. A little bit of an eventful race for you, but a good start. Once everything got settled in, it seemed like it was pretty much just hold on and pray.
Yeah, it was a really good race. I got a good start, as you said, came out in third, was able to kind of hold that position through the pit stops. Kind of had a little surprising that I came out in second. And then, I kind of saw that I had some room behind me and just managed my pace from there.
Well, any concern about the pit stop? We just talked to Daniel Nix about coming down into pit lane and running that extra lap. Were you worried at all about running out of fuel, or was everything pretty hunky-dory behind the wheel of the 911?
I was pretty confident in the fuel. I had run a fair amount of practice to know that I could make it that extra lap. So I was really fairly confident I could make it.
Well, you certainly did make it, and we've got to ask you, as we look ahead to Suzuka in 2 weeks' time, coming out in the 992, do you like your chances there, or is that going to be a little tricky?
Well, the 992 itself is a tricky car. I really enjoy Suzuka, and I have driven the 992 there in some previous series. So I look forward to the challenge. I know it's going to be a big one.
Well, we're looking forward to it, John. But as for tonight, who'd you like to thank? Who makes this possible?
Oh, first and foremost, I got to thank my wife and my wife Kristen, and then my kids Abby and Connor. They really support me in this, and they help me along, so it's much appreciated.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations again, John. That was John Gibson, your second place finisher here tonight.
And we're going to be talking to Lee Binkley now, finishing third up from 11th. And that climb definitely helped out by the start of the race. Lee, you had a front row seat to poor David Boyer having quite the adventure into turn one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some issues up there, and I guess it was my luck in their unfortunate situation. But I had to dodge a few cars, but it worked out in my favor for sure.
Now, you weren't in third immediately after that incident, so you did have to survive a bit more. Were you kind of in survival mode from there, or were you still hard charging?
No, for sure. After seeing other people go off in situations, I decided I just need to focus on trying to hit my marks and stay on track. I did struggle with being consistent, but I just tried to stay on track and avoid any trouble, and it worked out for me.
And Daniel was saying he felt comfortable in pretty much any car, just hops in and adapts to it. Would you say that you're similar, or how do you feel about this series taking you kind of all over the place?
No, I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it to see how it does work out. I can't say very few cars I'm absolutely comfortable with, but I try to put in a lot of practice and settle down and get in a groove and comfort with them. It seems to help me.
I'd say you did an excellent job here today in that O2 machine. Congratulations on a podium, sir.
Thank you.
That was Lee Binkley taking the O2 up to a top 3. And that's going to close us out, but we're not done yet here at VIR. Join us here again tomorrow night on April 6th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern for the Challenge class. We'd like to thank our sponsors for Series 10, which of course includes the Porsche Exchange and Six Sigma Sim Racing. Big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak. I'll see you on the track.